Yesterday I had the privilege of standing here and giving a short talk on women power. And later I got questions, wow, you have a women organization, you're having that as a... No, that's just a small part of what we do. So I come from Manager Association of Slovenia. We have about 1,000 members, mostly Slovenian executives from the highest or the biggest companies to the one-man and one-woman bands that we have. And our mission as an organization is to help executives become really great leaders. I believe that leadership and competitiveness are very much combined. They go hand in hand. And with strong leadership, you can have you can have great economy. And if you have great economy, then people live much better in that state than if they don't. And what we are very passionate about, besides women, is also competitiveness. And not only competitiveness of Slovenia, but also competitiveness of the region. And that's also a reason why our association was part of an initiative called Summit 100. And quite some of you that are here, I know, are familiar with that, and we're also part of that initiative, which is like Macedonia 2025 is focused on Macedonia and having links with neighboring countries and also from far, far, far away. And it's a great idea of including diaspora and diaspora giving back what it can. But Summit 100 is more linked to the business that's already here and combining and having more imprint in different nations and different countries. When I say Summit 100, then I mean that's a summit of at least 100 top business people from Southeast region. We mean practically Yugoslavia plus Albania, and with the idea of later maybe moving on to and adding additional countries. The idea started that no country can be successul if its neighbors are not successful, and that idea came from President Tadic, President of Serbia at that time, who at our first summit in Aranđelovac, where Mike Zafirovski was giving his speech then, and that was the first time I met him. He said that there's no rich country is surrounded by poor nations, and it goes the same way around. If we want to be successful, it doesn't. We have all to raise our bar a bit higher, and that's why I'm thankful that I was invited to come to Macedonia and learn from you and take that back to Slovenia. In 5 years since the initiative is here, and I'm talking a little bit about it because that's the reason I was invited, and how to connect more with Macedonia also. In 5 years we came to at least an event where not only 100 but 180 business people were present. We had 6 presidents talking about what they can do for regional competitiveness. We get 4 mayors talking about how they can cooperate and help business being better. We had 5 ministers from different countries also thinking of how they can coordinate things that business needs to have. We had 1 prime minister, we had one EU commissioner. So it was quite a huge event where we tried to bring top business people with top politicians and engage them in preparing a regional strategy. Because if we would have a regional strategy, and I guess that you all know how difficult it is to make a strategy of development for each country, so it must be even more difficult to make it on a regional level. But if we would have that, imagine how much we could actually save on just thinking of energy sector and transportation and tourism. I mean, a lot of that could really be helpful to each of the countries and each of the nation if we would try to think a little bit more in terms of togetherness. We can be in it together. But coming from that, I would start with Summit 100 because this is a little bit different initiative, but I feel it very much. It's the same vibration and the wish to accomplish something bigger and greater. I would bring to today's discussion of this panel and introduce the panelists that are here. We started in the morning with transformation of country, and we were all inspired by the great steps that Georgia made. Then we talked about transformational culture, and now here we are talking about transformational sectors, or what transformation can be done in sectors. And we have a very distinguished and very diverse panel. We'll be talking about medicine, we'll be talking about tourism, mining, IT, and also regional business. And with my panelists that are here, I would start with the one lady that you all have to know. If anybody has some sort of medical condition, she needs to be the one that you turn to, so we are very safe in this in this role. Dr. Jasmina, Knezevic is the founder and CEO of Belmedic Hospital, Serbia. I will not read you her CV because you have that in your booklet, but just to stress out, she's a pediatrician with a heart and a passion for entrepreneurship. And she put that together so that she made her own clinic. Why not? And in that way, I think that she accomplished to take every of the possible awards in Serbia and also on international level. But one I'm most interested in, and maybe we'll have a chance to talk about it later on, is what does the Flower of Success for the Dragon Lady mean? Award called Flower of Success for the Dragon Lady. So that's really a catchy one. But there are other ones. Otherwise, she was a leading business woman in Serbia, one of the most influential. So we're very grateful to have you here, Dr. Jasmina Knezevic. Then next to her we have Igor Popovski, who's a regional manager of GE Lightning. So you can see the connection over there with Mike Popovski, I guess. But what Igor managed to do is he's a representative of GE Lightning not only for Macedonia but for 8 countries. So he really has a vast knowledge of the regional situation. Next to Igor is Andrew Brown. Andrew is resident of Skopje for a year and a half now, approximately. He works for Endava. It's an IT company. They already set up you have 100 people employed already here, so that's quite a successful thing. And Andrew will be talking about what the IT can do in transforming itself, but also in transforming other sectors. And coming closer to my side, we have Mario Seric next to Ljubče sitting. And Mario is a specialist in tourism, and he just he put together his own company for consulting in tourism and hospitality services. And he's the guy to talk to how to tap into those billions of people traveling around the world with our suitcases around. And we all have heard yesterday Ljubče talking, so now am I pronouncing it correctly now? I'm saying Lu. Do you feel more comfortable with that? Okay. Naumovski, we know that he comes now from Russia, but otherwise is a resident of Canada, but also of other countries around the world. And he switched his love for plastic money to gold and silver, which is, I guess, a good switch. I would first start, if you agree, that we hear from the healthcare sector. So, Dr. Jasmina, just tell us your views on how healthcare can be.
Very nice to be here. Enjoyed yesterday's session very much. When I was asked to speak in this panel, I interpreted the challenge somewhat differently. Talking about transition and transformation, what I want to talk about is how the experiences that I've had in Russia, obviously not comparable to Macedonia, but two sectors which are relevant to Macedonia, that is electronic payments and mining, and what one individual company, in my experience, or with my participation, has been able to transform the sectors, those two sectors in Russia. And this, I'm breaking the rules here because 5 slides. This introductory slide talks about the fact that individual companies can make a difference. In electronic payments, the economic benefits to countries of a cashless society is something that we pushed at Visa, and I was there in 2007 as head of business in the former Soviet Union. And then switching gears, 2007, much of the experience that I had at Visa was surprisingly relevant in the mining industry, because we found that although Kinross, a company with roughly 9,000 employees globally, and having been in Russia since 1995, took upon itself the challenge of helping to improve Russian mining regulation, not for its own benefit, but for the benefit of the entire industry. Can I have the next slide? Okay. So the challenge in the payment sphere in Russia was basically the challenge of financial illiteracy. Most Russians were illiterate. We got there in 2000. I couldn't recover those statistics, but some facts about Russia in the year 2005. Only 0.5% of the population did any personal budgeting or planning for more than 1 year ahead. More than 60% of people in Russia did not trust banks and did not deposit their money there. More than 70% of people did not have any kind of insurance. And about 70% didn't know what to do about their future pensions. And 40% did not use any kind of banking services. And there was reportedly about $80 billion spent in that industry. So as a payment company, working with banks, when I got there we had about 130 banks and members. 7 years later we had 400 plus banks. But the solution was quite obvious to me and to my colleagues. We needed to improve financial literacy. This is a very honorable thing to do, of course, but we're not totally altruistic, because the more literate people were, the more likely they were to use our payment products. The first thing we did is to promote the benefits of salaries being paid in bank accounts with the debit card. And we took a whole bunch of cash out of the economy. And this was very welcomed by companies and by their bankers, obviously, because their deposits increased, and they also were able to charge more for these electronic services. And that was very successful. And I stress that across the country. I traveled all across Russia, met with factory directors and regional banks. It was very, very successful. We had to popularize the card usage. Visa, as a brand, was much stronger than any Russian financial brand, including Seric, which is the statement. And that was very important, because people had come to get a Visa card. They didn't think they would be fooled. They frankly didn't know that the bank was issuing it was the property, the card was the property of the bank that issued the card, but that didn't matter and whatnot. We started to associate the brand with local values. We became the first foreign company to sponsor the Russian Ice Hockey Federation, the first local company to sponsor the Russian Golf Federation. These things spoke to different segments of the market, and were very, very successful. One thing I'm most proud of is that we launched and funded for several years a financial literacy campaign. We realized that it's never too early to learn about finance. Growing up in Canada, nobody ever taught me about my personal finances. I had to learn about myself. I think that's a mistake in education systems around the world. And this was very, very successful. So successful that now the government and Ministry of Finance in Russia is doing it itself. And finally, we demonstrated the cost of cash to the economy, estimated at about 1.5% of GDP. Huge cost for security, for printing money, for storing and saving. This is a graph that just shows how we projected the growth of the payment card development. I won't read every step of the way. We started in 1984 when the first Visa cards were issued to the Soviet Union Olympic team in Seoul, Korea, and moving on to present day. I'll stop at 2015 because the benefits of what we did, not just by ourselves, but partly what Visa did, were very clear because going back 4 years ago, I should say that in 2011, there were more than 148 million debit cards in Russia, starting from a very low base, and about 15 million credit cards. While in the U.S., there were almost 400 million debit cards and 900 million credit cards. Russia has 142 million people, the United States has 112 million. It's quite a lot of progress. The acceptance, the number of ATMs, and the amount of spend on those cards increased quite considerably. Fast forward to 2015, the business became so successful that the Russian government wanted to get into the same business. And so they created the national payment system, and the Russian national card was called Mir, or Peace. And my successors at Visa and my friends at MasterCard have to co-badge with this national payment card, and they've lost the domestic business. But the bottom line is, the initiatives that we took as the leader of the payment business really helped to develop the cashless society, and nobody ever expected it to have so much influence. One company, albeit a global brand, it was daunting to consider that we'd have to face many challenges, and we did. I personally wrote the amendment to the Russian tax code, which allowed people to have a grace period on their credit card. Because prior to the changes, people had to pay tax on the free money they were getting 3 weeks before they had to pay their credit card bills. Anyway, moving along to mining in Russia. A lot of people ask me, how can you go from payment systems to mining, etc.? The challenges are the same, albeit the products are different. And the challenge really comes to the fact that in highly regulated industries, we cannot rely on government to improve things. Government needs to hear from citizens, from the industry. And so even though Kinross has worked successfully in Russia for 20 years, back around 2010, when we joined the Russian Prime Minister's Foreign Investment Advisory Council, as the only Canadian company and the only active mining company, we saw an opportunity to influence. So we wanted to influence policy change to make mining more attractive to our competitors. From the Russian mentality, people said, "Are you crazy? Why don't you keep quiet? You're the only one here. You're making lots of money." And we said, "No, that's not the culture that we have in our company." So we worked with all of our stakeholders, and the chart there lists them all: employees, government, regulators, etc. And we work with them. This is not germane only to Russia, but this is the way we operate around the world. We established the appropriate relationships through the Foreign Investment Advisory Council. We met all the regulators that governed our business, whether it was the Ministry of Finance, the Tax Service, the Subsoil Agency, etc. We started to have a constructive dialogue with them. Clear, transparent. They were very incredulous. Why are you doing this? Why don't you just keep quiet, stay in Šmuc, and make money? And finally, we convinced them that our objectives were quite genuine. So we never overpromised. We continued to do our mining over the last years in Šmuc, but we developed. Next slide, please. We developed at our own initiative over 4 years these 3 studies. We call them the white papers. In 2011, it was absolutely revolutionary. Nobody had ever done this. It cost us a lot of money. We had the best economic geologists we could find to do the analysis. We provided our own analysis, basically telling the Russian government, you are getting only 1/10 of the foreign investment for geological exploration that Canada or Australia gets. You can do that. And here are some 15 recommendations on how to do that. And the dialogue kept going. The dialogue was almost like a snowball. We were discussing with other industry participants, with academics, with foreigners, and I went to many international conferences where people were citing our report. It was very flattering to be seen in that conference. A couple of years later, the Russian government wanted very much to develop the Far East of Russia, which is huge, which is twice the size of Europe, but it has only 20 million inhabitants, and so we gave them some ideas on how to stimulate that. And finally, in 2014, we got down to very specific 3 recommendations on how to improve claims taking for geological deposits, how to improve the requirements for mining, for obtaining mine permission to mine, and how to increase the volume of the thresholds for certain what are called strategically important mine sectors. You don't have to show the last one. To summarize, two different sectors, ostensibly, highly regulated, the initiative of one company which attracted a lot of attention, a lot of support, and most importantly, was well received by those regulators who were trying to impress, who were trying to convince. And right now, I can say with quite a bit of pride that the mantle that we took up on ourselves has now passed over to the Russian subsoil agency. They are even more radical in terms of the changes they want to make to stimulate more and more investment in Russia. And we're very proud of that. We're very pleased. And having lived and worked in Russia for more than 30 years, I can say that I had never expected this. But if you have the right kind of relationship, the right kind of dialogue, an individual company can make a huge difference in the positive development of any sector that you want to make. Thank you very much.
That was really inspiring story of how a company should never give up, but can see itself as a force for a change in the whole sector, for its own good, but also for the good of the others. And now moving on to Mario and to the touristic part of the discussion. Mario, what can you tell us about your experiences and how you transform country, sector, nation?
Yes, I will tell you a lot of it, but I'm limited the time, right? I have only 5 or 10 minutes. Anyway, my name is Mario. I'm from Split, Croatia, the most beautiful and the biggest city on Croatian coast. First of all, I want to give my regards to all of you from Macedonia, Serbia, and other countries of ex-Yugoslavia, from all of my friends in Split, because we like very much all of you guys, and it's my pleasure that I'm here in Macedonia, in my city, and will be happy to share my experience with you. I have structured my speech in 3 points: what was going on at the national level in Croatian tourism for the last 15 years, what was going on at the destination level of a big destination like Split for the last 10 years, and what can be done in a small destination, and what has happened in the case of Darva for the last 5 years. So what has happened in Croatia? In 2000, we had only a little bit over 30 million tourist nights. We experienced violent wars in the 90s in Croatia, Bosnia, that affected us all. And then since 2000, basically, the market started coming back. And it grew up to almost 70 million overnight stays this year. So over the 15-year period of time, the tourism volume in Croatia has increased from 30 to about 70 million tourists. Half of it is pure market recovery. People were just, coming back. But the other half can be attributed to the initiatives of public sector and private sector. I would say maybe half-half. So what has the public sector done in Croatia? First of all, it has defined a national marketing plan and started investing aggressively into the marketing of Croatia as new rising star of Europe. And this process was very, very active from early 2000s until late 2000s. The government has also financed a lot of other plans, particularly at the regional level, so-called master plans. In some regions they were successful, in some not. It all depended on the people who would really actually execute this initiative. But what has happened in private sector, the privatization that started in the 90s has more or less finished throughout the 2000s. And the good and fair thing about the Croatian hotel sector is that about 90% of it is owned by Croatian companies, various investment funds, high net worth individuals, and others. But all of them were faced with the challenges that they had to renovate, they had to reposition and rejuvenate the product that they inherited that was built in the 1980s. And they started a lot of renovation processes, introducing international standards in operations, marketing, and they have pretty much completed their job. So I would say that the Croatian hotel sector today is healthy in this market segment of 4- and 3-star leisure resorts, and more or less competitive as it is in Spain, Greece, and Turkey. However, finished because Croatia still has about 50% more potential to grow. And now is the time for the new project to start, for the newcomers to enter. I hope that entry into EU will help us facilitate foreign direct investment, which we really need in Croatia. So now the game will be about mostly real estate projects and the entry of international investors, particularly in upscale hotel projects. But not to talk about Croatia too much, because in my opinion what is more interesting is the destination level, what's going on the ground. So I would like to actually share with you my personal experience with the city of Split, where I'm from, but I lived all over the world and moved back to Split 10 years ago. After having worked for many, many years with international companies, I decided to get down and really start digging and working with the local people. Split is a pure example of development which is 100% privately driven. So no city government, no regional government, no national government has given any single euro for the local development department. So what has happened? The hotel owners of new hotels have opened, such as the Meridian Split, Radisson Split, and many more, have gathered together with me, and we decided that we need to do something about the city. We have witnessed that the market has shown big interest to create a touring product together with Dubrovnik and the island of Hvar. So we decided to join the forces. We decided to join the forces particularly for the marketing of the city and also negotiating with airlines to introduce new flights to Split, to negotiate with professional conference organizers, incentive houses, event organizers to promote the destinations. So it was all our efforts in the markets such as London, Paris, Barcelona, Madrid, and many cities in Germany. And that was my responsibility for 2-3 years. And, you know, it showed results. It was all driven and financed by the hoteliers and some other private companies performing there. How this has contributed to the growth of tourism? Split in 2000, the urban area of Split had a little bit less than 1 million tourist nights. In 2005, we had 2 million. In 2010, we had 3 million, and this year we will surpass 5 million tourists. So the tourism has increased 5 times over the last 15 years, and actually 2.5 times in the last 10 years. It still has potential to grow to anywhere between 9 and 10 million over days. Today you have more than 20 hotel projects being constructed or in preparation in the city. But again, it is all privately driven. So we don't have any master plan, we don't have anything but very, very healthy private initiative, coupled with very strong interest of the market, particularly overseas markets, American, Australian, and in Europe, mostly English, Scandinavian, French, and others. And now, talking about the small destination tourism development marketing, this is completely opposite. This is a destination called the Daruvar, halfway between Zagreb and Osijek. It's in continental Croatia, a little charming, multicultural place of about 22,000 people, which has a tradition in thermal tourism. And over there I have been invited by the mayor after he has won election to see what can be done. And he was very, very proactive in bringing together the main stakeholders in the area to the city. So he invited the mayors of the 4 surrounding adjacent municipalities and the main stakeholders in the area, the thermal complex, the producers of food, beverage, and small little hotels. And we started meeting. As we started talking, I engaged also some other people from Croatia that brought to help us. And very soon we defined our master plan. The city mayor invited all the stakeholders in this meeting room. We would have our workshops, meetings. After that, we would make voting for the ideas. And what was very interesting is that those people were always having about 80% of consensus on the most important things. After that, the mayor would make a decision, it would become legal, and we would do the job. And it was going like this for several years, and this has benefited the destination to such an extent that they have applied 18 projects for EU funds. And every year they receive some money. But everything is driven by the local government. This destination has enormous potential, especially in this thermal tourism. And I'm sure that they will think because they are quite hard working, and it's actually quite interesting as a definition mayor is the Czech guy who is in social welfare party. His assistant is the main assistant is the Serbian guy who is in a Croatian right-wing party. And the main woman managing the hotels is a Hungarian minority. So it's a very, very interesting environment where you have Orthodox, Catholic, and Protestant churches in the main city square. I assume this has also something to do with culture, or being progressive, constructive, as you would say, and so we took into both. I would like to conclude. I don't think that there is any particular business model that anybody should implant to you. Oh yeah, you have to do things this way or that. You really have to see what you have, and most important, who are the people, and do they have passion to do something. Once you define this, then you can do anything you want. This is my experience for the last 10 years, exactly because I have become somehow bored of making those big strategies, marketing plans for the government and so on. I think the future is really in the necessity of people and doing the things spot on. And, have the government keep the regulation, but not intervene too much. I'm much more, the private sector guy. But if the government really knows what to do, then support them. Here from Macedonia, I really hope that, your future is ahead of you. I think this event is very interesting from the touristic point of view. I don't know if we have something like that here in Southeast Europe, but if this event may reposition itself in that direction, in several years' time, I think it can. Macedonia is central located, it's part of the Balkans. It has, after Macedonia and Albania, second largest ethnic group, so it can be attracted to Albania. Macedonia used to belong to Yugoslavia, so it can be attracted to Slovenians, Croats, Bosnians, Serbs, and Montenegrins. It shares the same Greece, so it might also target Greece, definitely. And a lot of history with Turkey and the language with Bulgaria. So I think you have a lot of strategic advantages really to, move on in that direction, and I would love to be coming here, as a mini novel for the next few years.
Thank you, Mario. I think that you did show a business model behind both of those cases that you said. One was co-petition and the other was collaboration, and how far we can go when we have that in mind. Going to the medicine. Pediatrician with a clinic that deals with all different blocks of parts of the medicine and the welfare. Please take the floor and tell us something more of how that can be transformed through the business and private sector initiatives.
Thank you for this invitation and this possibility to be here today with you. As you know, I'm Dr. Jasmina Knezevic. I am owner and co-founder of private hospital Knezevic, which is celebrating now this year 20 years of existing. And I can say that in this moment Knezevic is one of the leading hospitals in Serbia, and that we have more than 230 full-time employees and more than 300 eminent doctors who are coming to us on call as consulting doctors. We have more than 200,000 patients, and nowadays I can say that we have patients from all the world for some special operations, which for some special doctors which we can in our team. First of all, I want to introduce you that private sector generally is one of the youngest industrial branch in ex-socialist countries. From 1989, law in former Yugoslavia allowed private medical tests. Before that it was forbidden. Similar situation was in all of European ex-socialist countries. It was absolutely new market, and this market brings benefit not only to these private hospitals. It is something bringing new to all pharmaceutical companies, but after that to the insurance companies, and from the distributors of medical equipment and devices. This is increasing business activity and income in this part of economy, and in all these countries we have more employees and more better results in economic field, which it was very, very important for this time of economic crisis. Another big advantage of private practice was benefits to the patients. Patients got better, faster, more comfortable service, and it was a service which was available 24 hours, and hospitality of all these hospitals was on a great level if we are comparing with the public sector. In Serbia, in this moment, we have more than 1,500 private medical institutions and private sectors. 75 of them are the large hospitals, general or special hospitals. And quoting the information of the World Bank, we can say that the spends about 35% of the total number for the health service in the private sector. It is a great number of money are going now from the pocket of the patients to the private sector. In spite of that, state of Serbia did not integrate private sector in the private health care in the public healthcare system. This means that money paid for the health insurance does not follow up the patient. It is obligated to pay for the health insurance from the salary, but almost 40% of citizens do not use this service in public health sector, and they have to pay from the pocket. And this is something which is not good and which is a problem because the patients have to pay twice for the same service. I have to say that first of all I would like to that entrepreneurship energy was a locomotive of a steady development of the sector, especially because the market was completely new, and because the medicine on its own is very, very risky. And this spirit of entrepreneur was necessary for stay on the market and to develop and to survive. We didn't have to learn from anybody. We had to do everything on our own. And because that the connections with the regions and with the experience of our colleagues from another country is crucial for development it is very, very important for all of us. Nowadays, I can say that in Macedonia, medical service is really very, very good in private sector. I can say maybe on the higher level than in Serbia, and it is a great opportunity to change experience and to make all this sector for better, to have better position on the world market. In this moment, we can say that we have new modern facilities, hospitals, diagnostic centers. We have modern treatment, up-to-date treatment, good doctors, and nurses with enough good. They are in the process have good to be competitive on the world market. Health tourism is growing, and it is one sector which is worldwide very, very important and can be interesting even for us. Thank you.
Thank you. And Igor, now I turn the next sort of 10 minutes to you so that you can see that he will be done. Please don't take 20 minutes more than
First of all, I would like to say that I'm very proud member of the board of Transformative. In the free time, I work for General Electric. Me and my brother, we run a company that is covering two businesses of GE, which is lighting and industrial solutions. Sonja did a little bit of introduction. I will not do too much. I just want to say that it's a company based in Skopje, covering the region Southeast Europe, 8 countries in Southeast Europe, and we do this for 15 years now. I would like to speak about one topic which is quite popular these days. It is where I come from, and this is the energy efficiency. For this audience, in order to understand really what is driving this transformation that I will speak and how it's connected with energy efficiency, I would like to give you some insights, which of course I get from the work with electric. The first point is we need to understand the driving forces behind this transformation. And I put on the screen just a couple of them. I don't want to elaborate all of them, but first of all, I would like to mention the cost awareness. It's nothing new. I mean, the companies always take good care about the cost of the operation. However, we are facing after the world crisis 2008-2009 a completely different attention, I would say, to the cost structure. And this is related to the energy efficiency. I will come to that again later. Most of you are aware about the EU regulation and directives considering the 20% energy efficiency, 20% energy saving, actually 20% saving on the cut on the CO2 emissions, and this has to be achieved until year 2020. This is one of the drive forces, mainly in European Union, but of course it affects our countries. I would also connect the last point, which is the corporate, social and environmental responsibility, to the culture that we spoke before. We see on a large scale a lot of companies already put in their investment plans a lot of topics, a lot of plans, a lot of investments connected to this responsibility. So these driving forces are in the core of the transformation. But what actually we are talking about? We are talking about, and I put here some numbers which are, I would say, a little bit modest, but just for you to get your attention a little bit. So we are talking about 5 billion installed base, $5 billion installed base. This is covering all sectors, starting from the industry, hospitality, so hotels, banks, hospitals, the retail segment, meaning starting from the corner shop to the big shopping malls. So everything, I like to say, every location, every spot where you see light, this is the place where you have some kind of lighting or lighting system. It's a quite busy market, more than 2,500 companies. It's from one perspective,
a lot of companies, maybe most busy market segment, but from the other side, it's a lot of traditional companies working on the same way like they used to do. We call in our slang box movers, meaning that these companies are just importing a product and just finding a way this product to get to the end user. There is no interaction between the end user and the needs of the end user. And this is a situation that we have right now. And this will just phase out. This will disappear. Why? When the companies doing their projects on reaching the energy efficiency, which is in their agendas already, which is in their agendas of cost saving, because if they don't do it, then the neighbor will do it. So there is no way to get out of this process. You will see a market, a traditional market of lighting system that will disappear. So what these 2,500 companies will do? They have to transform themselves. And what we see right now, they're transforming very slow. They're not accepting really the changes on the market. And that's why we see already now about 100 companies appearing every month. And this is very interesting because these companies are coming not only from the, we call it traditional lighting companies, but they are coming from totally different market segments. For example, we have Gorenje from Slovenia, appliance company who produce appliances for households. They are entering into the lighting business. We will see, for example, Deutsche Telekom, a company who doesn't have anything to do with lighting. They are introducing certain lighting services. And I would also mention, you see a quite huge number of startups, because starting a company that will offer the services that this new world needs doesn't need too much experience. Actually, nobody has the experience right now. It's a process which is happening day by day, and the startups are really welcome. They're much more flexible, and that's why they're actually bigger percentage of these companies. So obviously there is a very pragmatic reason why such a big movement is happening. And I put it, it's a huge market. It's a market which we evaluate just in this region 70 to 80 billion dollars. Just in this region. I'm talking about Southeast Europe. Okay, so this is a pretty big cake, right? It's a very attractive. It's a latest technology. It requires not only price, product. It requires also to have some kind of know-how. So it's a big driver for a transformation. And I don't know how we are with the time. I would like to go to the last point, which is for me personally the most important message that I would like to share with you here. Maybe this is a moment when companies from this region, from Macedonia of course, and from our neighbors, can do a little bit of implementing the knowledge that they will have from the local experience and very quickly access the global market. Why I say this? If you learn how to change one lamp in Macedonia, you can do it in France, you can do it in the United States. There is no limitation. Here what counts is the knowledge, the know-how, and how well you can be this trusted consultant, how well you can become this trusted consultant to a certain company. And this is a process that I personally went through in the last years. For example, we just now are getting in Skopje a Marriott hotel. But when we started with Marriott in Romania, now we are invited to do it in Poland. We started in Bulgaria, for example. I just take one example, the hotel industry. We talked with Hilton in Sofia, then we were invited in Dubrovnik. We were invited in Budapest. So there is a huge possibility from a very small country to do it very similar. I compare this to the IT industry. If you know how to do a certain application, certain software, you can do it everywhere. You can do it from Macedonia. Same here. So I would like to encourage all business people here that are from this region, from Macedonia especially, to think about this. It's a great opportunity. This transformation process will last for a decade at least. So I think it's time now to think to get involved and to help. And for the end, I just want to have a comment. We have also on the agenda of Macedonia 2025 our responsibility to improve the environment conditions, right? The air, etc. So I think this is very, very compatible also with our agenda. Thank you very much.
Andrew, you are coming from the IT sector, but you're an engineer, and maybe you can help me with one saying, which we heard yesterday also, that some people see the glass as half full, the other as half empty, but somebody once told me the engineers see it as half too big.
Yeah, definitely. We'll see the problem and want to solve it.
Maybe we can solve that later. But now I'll let you go and tell us something more about how you see the IT sector. You studied, you know this region quite well. You studied in Niš, so that's not that far away from here. You worked in Moldova, but you come from the UK. So please tell us what have you learned and why are you here?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Belfast, but when I was a student, I spent the summer in Niš, which isn't too far from here, on an exchange program at the University of Niš. I was an electronic engineer originally. I lived for 2 years in Moldova, which is where I started with Endava. And Endava is an IT services company. We're around 2,500 people now. And of those, about 1,000 are in Romania, in 3 different cities. We have around 300 in Moldova, and now we have 100 here in Skopje, and we have an office that can take 350 to 400 people. And we plan to fill that in the next 2-3 years. And we've been going for about 1.5 years in Skopje, and also in the last year we bought a company in Belgrade, PS Tech, which has added 330 people in Belgrade. So now we're quite heavily invested in this region as an IT company. I think Mike talked earlier about the brain drain, and I think the IT sector, more than any sector, has the chance to not just stop the brain drain, but actually reverse the brain drain. When we opened up, we had applications from IT specialists, Macedonians who were living in Oman, living in Dubai, we had one person back from Poland. And so I think it has a real opportunity to transform the region as it takes off. And I think it's already happening. I think the growth of Endava, while very fast, also reflects the growth which has happened in Romania the last few years. I think Romania and Bulgaria especially see it, but I think it's spilling over here. Since we've come, it seems there's announcements every month about more IT companies coming to Skopje. So I think what we're talking about here is something which is going to happen anyway, something which is going to grow. But I think we're talking about how can we make it grow faster? How can we maximize the potential of the IT industry in the region? Endava, when we decided to open in Skopje, we had a long list of 40 cities around Europe that we cut down to 3 cities in the end, and we selected Skopje, and I think others will do the same. I think one of the things which is changing is that IT outsourcing, which is what we do. We write software here for companies in Western Europe, North America. Currently in Skopje, we have projects for companies in Switzerland, Germany, UK. But I think one of the things which has happened, which has enabled this growth in Central and Eastern Europe and in Southeastern Europe, is the outsourcing has matured. I think 5-10 years ago, outsourcing took a different view. I think it was seen as more of a commodity. Boards were deciding to push everything to India and other places. I think since then people have understand much better how to make IT outsourcing and business process outsourcing work. They understand what you can outsource, what you can't. They understand how to go about outsourcing it. And I think tools have enabled it as well. We have a lot more tools now, even than we did 3-4 years ago, that make it much easier to work with, collaborate with clients in different cities. We have communications tools like Skype and FaceTime. As I walk through the office, I see people on video conferences all the time, which even 3-4 years ago wasn't possible. We didn't have the bandwidth and we didn't have the tools to do it. It was expensive. We have collaboration technology, which allows people to share screens. We have smart boards. We have lots of things that mean that. Last week I was on a conference call where some guys were doing a demo to a client, and there were guys looking at this demo in Barcelona, in London, in Switzerland and Skopje, and I was off in the south of Macedonia looking at it on my mobile phone. So I think all those things just mean that IT outsourcing can really be in a position to take off. And I think this region's in a position to take off as well. It has an overlapping time zone with much of Western Europe. And I think the low-cost air travel means that it's very easy for people to fly back and forward. Clients can come in and out with great ease, and people can go and visit the client to demonstrate things, to have workshops with great ease. And so I think we're getting on the back of something which is already happening. So I think all those things have leveled the playing field so that I think it's possible. But I think what I wanted to talk about is more about what is the challenge. I think one of the things which has happened on the other side is that in the past, when it came to IT outsourcing, people treated it as if it was something you could write a specification, email it over to your developers wherever they were. They would spend a month, 2 months, 3 months, a year coding it, and then they would send it back to you, and you would think, that's not what I asked for. I think the whole model has changed a lot. I think when clients are looking for outsourcing partners, they're not looking for suppliers anymore. They're not saying, I need 5 .NET developers or I need 10 Java developers. They're saying, I need a partner. I need an IT partner who can help me solve my business problems. And Louis talked about some of the problems in payments. That's the kind of thing which we do, and we collaborate with financial companies to kind of come up with technical solutions which are going to solve some of those problems on electronic payments and change societies as payments change. You know, how do you make it easier for people to buy their cup of coffee or their bus ticket? You know, how do you get the balance right between using data to bring businesses and consumers together and balancing that with the right to privacy? You know, how do you make transactions as frictionless as possible, but while maintaining information security? Quite often the people who want to outsource the IT, they're not IT people. They want people who can help them to solve those problems. And so I think the first point on the slide is that, yes, you need to be smart. Yes, you need to have technical skills. But that just gets you to the game, permission to play. I think that's a Patrick Lencioni term. But your differentiator is your ability to innovate, your ability to kind of partner with people, to come up with innovative solutions, to tell them what the technology can do. And I think if the region wants to take off in IT, I think then it can't just follow, it can't just deliver developers straight out of university. It has to deliver some innovation and an innovative culture and a creative culture, I think. And we talked about culture, and it's something that we've invested in quite a lot as well. One of our sayings is that culture trumps strategy under pressure. And so we work very hard on our culture because we think the culture is what matters. And we say as a company, if we want to grow to be 10,000 people, we need 1,000 leaders. And what does that look like? And I think that's something which we need to focus on as well. If we're going to exponentially grow, growing fast means that you need to develop leaders. People who can get in front of clients, and talk about solutions, who can challenge clients. If they feel the client doesn't understand what's going on, they're not going to sit there and just do what the client asks, even if they think it's wrong. And actually, I think it's a big strength of the region. It's one of the things we find in Romania, in Moldova, in Macedonia, is that the guys here aren't afraid to put their hand up and say when they think something's being done wrong. And we had the CIO of a large insurance company here last week, and we did a retrospective where we sat around the table with 8 or 10 of his team, and we asked everybody to say how we think we could do things better. And everybody from the most junior person to the most senior was giving feedback. And, you know, I said, the CIO said, what do you want me to tell these guys? And I said, I want you to tell them that you want them to criticize the process and to improve the process. And he did, and he got the feedback that he wanted, and he thanked them for the feedback, and he said, we're not the experts, we're an insurance company, we want you to tell us how to do things better. And so I think in the past, I think a lot of IT in the region has been focused on regional products, banking, insurance products, CRM products, or the simple offshore model of I need 5 .NET developers and 2 testers. But I think, it needs to move into that innovative, creative space, and I think that's when it can really, really take off. I think the other thing which I wanted to highlight is the other thing which is changing is that I think a lot of the IT industry in the region has been focused on software development, and I think that's been a good market for a long time, but I think people are waking up to the fact that most IT spend in big companies is spent on running the existing systems, and there's huge market opportunity in running the existing systems, but it's actually much more challenging than building something from zero, because you need an understanding of how these complex systems work and a real understanding of clients' businesses. And it plays into the same thing. I think people need to be able to learn quickly. They need to be able to get in and understand the client's business and do that. And so really I think how the region can kind of react to that, and how the region, I think, can respond to that and maximize the opportunity, I think, is to look at education and how we develop people, not just numbers of people, but how we develop the kind of people which can really exploit that opportunity. And I think we've been looking at that as a company. I think other companies are as well. As a company, we've got around 100 people now, as I said. Around 18 of those are graduates straight from university who we've put through training and graduate programs. And we've actually been using them to teach some of the senior developers that we've hired some of the best practice. And we've been sending them back into the universities to do sessions in the universities about what they've learned since they've come out. And at the job fair last year, we got one of them to go and do a talk on 365 days since I left university about what they've learned, because really we're trying to feed back into the system what is the gap. The universities are fantastic here. They're very open to conversations with business about what they should be teaching, how they should be teaching. We try to go and do a session once a month at the universities on various topics. But at the same time, I think university curricula are slow to change, and I think business needs to take the lead on this, I think, in many ways. And I think we're doing that as well, I think, together with the IT Association, with MASSET, with the education providers. We're looking at some of that domain knowledge, which is the gap. So we're looking at things like agile development, secure coding, information security, software test automation, things which maybe aren't on university curriculums. And we're trying to say, how do we not just do that internally for our company, but we're trying to, through the IT Association, develop programs so that that can be done in the wider industry here as well. And I think we talked about the brain drain and the reverse brain drain. I think there's a need for the diaspora, I think, to really help to see this. When you go into a very large bank or insurance company and you want to talk to them about credibility in front of, in complex systems, you need people who have some scars. And I think we benefit from that. We have some people in our company who've done that, working for local companies. They've spent a lot of time overseas, or people who are overseas who come back. And I think, if you really want to multiply the opportunity, I think for every one of those people, you can put 10, 15, 20 people locally behind them, and really, you can build a project. So I think, if you really want to unlock the potential and the growth of the industry, then I think we're already on track, but I think there's always more that can be done. And, I see it every time a client visits one of our delivery centers. As I said at the top there, it's all about people, not products.
Thank you a lot. And we have our first question over there.
Just to learn from you what your day-to-day operational challenges are.
Just use the microphone, it will be easier. Yeah.
Great. Janowski. Andrew, just interested to find out what your kind of top 3 day-to-day operational challenges are operating in the local environment.
Okay, let me give you 2 that come to me off the top of my head. I might think of a third after that. I think one is culture in a way. We're trying to create an open culture where really all the people from the junior people up can feel able to speak up, able to give their creativity. And quite often people are used to working in an environment where they're used to being told what to do and when to do it, and they don't always feel like that's kind of their potential is unlocked. So it takes quite a long time to develop that culture, and then you're hiring in senior people who come from different cultures, and they can quickly squash that culture if you're not careful. So we work very, very hard on keeping that culture, because that openness internally and with our clients as well. Sharing the problems early, sharing what we're doing to solve the problems, I think is something which we work hard to do and which maybe we don't find always naturally in people, and we find people under pressure can revert to a different kind of culture. So I think that's number one, I think, and something we work very hard at. In terms of a more operational issue, I would say one of the issues around some of the labour code, I think, is written, for more of a factory environment. So, there's laws about clocking in, clocking out, and trying to tell a 20-something, to clock in, clock out, it's just never going to work. So you have to find some way to kind of balance these things. And we don't want to either. We want to empower people. We want them to feel that it's their project to deliver, not that they can clock on, do a bit, and then clock off. If they're feeling productive, they can stay a bit longer. If they're not feeling productive, they can leave. And we're pretty flexible. And we have flexible working. So some of those, trying to marry some of those things, I think, from day to day has been quite challenging, and I think something we learned quite quickly when we started. We had similar issues in Romania, I think, when we started, but over time, I think those have become, I think it's become more harmonized with a European view of things, so I think it's changed. I think those are two. I can't think of a third right now.
Thank you a lot. Here, another question?
Yeah, hi. Alan again. Hi, how are you all? I liked your guys' speech, but this one is more towards Igor. Because you said you worked in manufacturing, you were giving the option that the idea of the light bulb, to turn it around and to place it anywhere, once you have that underway, you can proceed and do it everywhere else. I like the sentiment, but as well as you're also in manufacturing, I just had to add the comment that we work with the European Union, you export to other international countries, but people have to keep in mind that regulations in regards to manufacturing have to be kept there. And they have to be, especially quotas in imports and exports, especially going to European Union, North America, China, Africa, etc. What necessarily works in Europe will not necessarily work in America. What necessarily works in Asia is not necessarily needed in Europe. There are a bunch of things that have to be changed by country and by basis, like a windshield in Serbia requires 70% transparency, while a windshield in Europe requires around 92% transparency, while one in Australia requires 95%. I just wanted to add that that is something people have to keep in mind when they go into trying to do something manufacturing or anything in general. You have to keep in mind the laws and regulations, especially in imports and exports. And I'm guessing GE also has that problem, especially.
Not actually. I disagree with you a bit. I will explain you why. First of all, I was not talking about a product. I was talking about a service. It's a. If you remember the heading, it's the solution is the new buzzword. So, concept, solution, service. This is not a product. Okay, this is a know-how, and this is applicable everywhere. It doesn't matter. It's one type of voltage, different type of voltage. So what you are talking about is, let's say, different type of socket, or a different type of, I don't know, regulation, as you said. But the concept itself is unique. There is no difference. So we can take it later. Okay.
I see that will be a hasty debate later on at the coffee. We have a question over here. Can you have the mic?
I have a question for Jasmina and Mario. You mentioned that this success you had in Croatia, and based on a few examples you explained, is basically initiated by the private people. So if you will choose any place in Macedonia or Serbia, maybe with some tradition in a spa or thermal tourism, how would you, let's say, and for how long it will be taken, and how would you organize the health tourism in one of these places to have some success, and would you personally take this challenge to participate.
Okay. Well, first, I will reply first. I would need to really analyze, what's going on here in Macedonia. I know some basic facts and figures, but really to see if there is any potential, in the area that you mentioned, Arab analysis should be done. Health tourism does definitely have a lot of potential, what my colleague has said. We do have know-how, a lot of good doctors, practitioners, but to my knowledge, we still don't have good infrastructure and other services that would appeal, let's say, international market, coming here for, certain operations and so forth. Turkey has been doing quite a lot of it for the last few years, but for our region, I also see potential, but, in the case of Macedonia, it would really need to be analyzed. I also know that you have some thermal resources here in Macedonia, 6 or 7 of them. But as in the case of Croatia, Slovenia, even Serbia, those are usually, visited by the local demand. And then the question is, do you have a lot of enough, consumption of power of the locals that would support, let's say, higher quality thermal resources in the area? I really don't know how to answer the, question to be, satisfactory to you unless I do some, kind of serious analysis.
I can say that I will explain you on my way. I am an entrepreneur and I will explain you how I do this initiative in this field. First of all, I find 10 years ago one person on Thailand from America who has touristical urgency, and this person was trying to find patients through all the world for some special things, some special operations. And he was really very successful. And nowadays we have 1-2 per day person who came from all the world, maybe sometimes 3 per day operations for foreigners who should not never come in Serbia for another reasons. They are not our diaspora. They are foreigners who came for operations to our hospital. There are a lot of limitations. It is a personal initiative. We don't have systemical government action making some strategic plan how to grow this sector. It was only initiative of one person. And we have a lot obstacles from the law. We don't have good regulations. We don't have recognized accreditations which are recognized for the foreigners. And this is another step which we have to learn in all the region. It is not only talk for Serbia or Macedonia. All the region didn't have recognized accreditations and license, which are in the public health very, very important thing. And I think in the future we have to do together, and we can change doctors, we can change and make better regulations together, because our problems are similar.
I would just like to add, if possible, strategically speaking, actually I think this is one of the main strategic potentials also for Croatia. I think that actually our coast, Croatian coast, is probably the most beautiful coast in the Mediterranean for pure rest, without doing nothing, relaxation, and especially for the people who are, let's say, in their late 50s, 60s, and 70s. I mean, I know it will sound maybe strange, but it's a really good country to die in a decent way. And, with good assisting living services and professional doctors, no country in the Mediterranean has positioned itself in that direction at all. So this is a unique strategic opportunity for Croatia, for example. For certain niche products can be a good opportunity for, Belgrade, for Macedonia as a country, but this is the area where I see government involvement for sure, purely because of the laws and the health system.
Thank you. We have still a couple of minutes left. I would like to use them first with a question to Yulu, and then we have 3 questions that we got from the audience before. And you were talking about how it can be how a company can be a transformational force also for a certain sector, and with that to the society and the country. But let me bring you more home to you personally. What did the transformation of coming from visa to going to work for a mine company do to you?
Well, it didn't help my bank balance, unfortunately, given the low price.
Do they pay you in gold and silver?
Well, that would be even worse. I'm just talking about... No, but all kidding aside, I made a comment about how highly regulated industries are very similar. If you understand the necessity for regulation, the necessity for minimizing regulation, if your final objective is to increase investment, in the payment segment, increasing investment in electronic payments was the ultimate objective, and that has been happening in Russia. In the mining industry, they desperately want more investment in Russia, and yet there's only one reputable mining company, namely Kinross, that's mining any commodity in Russia, which is a sad commentary because Russia is the largest country in the world and has the greatest repository of all mineral wealth in the world, and yet they've attracted exactly one investor. So the complementarity or the commonality of those two objectives made it very easy to transition from one sector to another. Learning about how our explorationists find gold, well, that's very interesting, but it's not germane to the objective, really. And I go 2 or 3 times a year to the mine sites, and I pretend to know what I'm talking about, but they don't need me there. They need me in Moscow, where the task at hand is to improve the investment climate. So as a consequence, I said yesterday that there are certain personal qualities you need. Everything else can be learned. And in that context, I think I've learned enough about mining. I've learned enough about how poor you can be working in the mining sector. But the fact is that I would venture to say that this is probably true of many other sectors. The basic business principles of what you need to do when you're dealing with regulations, when you're dealing with, when you're trying to increase investment, many of the solutions are common to all sectors.
Thank you a lot. And the questions that we got earlier, one is for Mario and the other for Andrew. I would like you both to limit yourself to 2 sentences. Okay. First to Mario. What is your method of choice in transferring know-how in the process of transforming the hospitality sector in Croatia? So what is the method of choice that you prefer in transferring know-how?
I'm not sure I understood the question.
Well, pretend you do.
Can you be so kind to repeat?
Well, how would you transfer? Well, there are different methods that one can use, and the ones that I took from what you were saying, I would say actually that's competition and collaboration as the methods of transfer of knowledge.
Well, I play...
Did I answer it for you so we can move on?
No, it really depends on, the particular destination that you deal with. I work not just in Croatia, but in Kazakhstan, with the government, in Morocco, in Spain, Dubai. So, all these countries, you have to be flexible. This is an important thing, and you have to be constructive. And then you decide, on the how you say, model, somewhere it's competition, somewhere it's, regulated development. It really depends. I don't have personal choice, really. I don't have any personal
Perfect. Thank you. And just a quick comment to you. Half of those increase in tourism definitely always comes from Slovenia. So Croatia depends on us strongly.
Thank you. We love you guys.
We love you too. Andrew, the question for you, also very short and concise, but very interesting one. Can the SEE region develop into an outsourcing and tech support hub on par with India and the Philippines?
Absolutely. I mean, you can't compete on volume. So obviously in India, the numbers are just staggering, in terms of the numbers and size of those companies. But I think definitely you need to get to a certain size and scale. So you need companies of a certain size and scale to compete with them. And I think, as I said earlier, creativity, innovation are the things which are going to completely differentiate you.
Thank you a lot. And one question was for me. What crucial difference do you see in Slovenia that you don't see in Macedonia or in other SEE countries? I actually don't see that much of a difference. I see many more similarities among us. And maybe the one thing that is making us as a special part of the world, and we like to be each other mostly so much, but also have quite a violent history in the region also, is that we are very passionate people and that we love life. We love to live full lives. But on the other hand, we also know how to live with very modest means. We don't need much to have an interesting and nice life. And that also means that we're not that hungry for success. That we are quite satisfied with average and think that average is good enough. But it's actually not. So the things that make us very strong are also the ones that make us less competitive. At least that's my opinion. I don't know if you share it with me. I would like to thank this panel for a great discussion and insights. Each of you, I was looking at you and I see that every one of you has an impact, at least the sector you're in has an impact on the other one's sector. I guess that all of us have some gold on us or close to us. And I have more than he does, sure. So this means I'm a good customer. And we would like to travel, and the health tourism that is developing is an important part of probably the future also of this region. We all like light, we all need light, and we all want to also be efficient with that. And unfortunately, IT got into everything that we do, so Andrew, we cannot do without you just as well.